Hey YouTube, so this video is going to be a little bit different. First of all, you get to see my big beautiful face. Second of all, no racing footage, sorry. So thought I'd try something a little different, a little behind the scenes of what goes into a probably a little more than average week since we had some damage last week. So a couple different clips of things that we need to do on the car regularly, things that we need to do on the car when special things come up. So figuring experimenting a little bit YouTube. To preface this video, I'm not a professional mechanic. I've only been doing this for 2 years. The first time I ever swapped an engine, swapped a transmission, set the lash, fully set up a car, so many things has been on this car. So maybe I don't do everything optimally. I'm doing it to the best of my ability and the best of my knowledge in the 2 years that I've been doing this. So if you have suggestions or comments on anything to help me improve, that would be awesome. I'm always willing to learn, and that's actually why I'm making this video, is for anybody out there maybe wanting to get into racing, wanting to understand a little bit more of the week to week. This maybe can provide some insight. I know there's some other really good YouTube channels out there, but I was surfing deep into YouTube when I was getting into it, looking for even the smallest content creator, because you learn little things here and there from a lot of different people. So maybe this will be helpful, maybe it won't. So we typically get home from the track pretty late at night. Live in a HOA housing community, so I cannot unload my car at night that late. I'd get way too many complaints from neighbors. So I park it out front of the house and leave it in the trailer and unload the next morning. Usually after 10 o'clock, I think is pretty safe time to unload. Car's loud, but it only takes less than 30 seconds to get it around the house. Pull it around, put it in the driveway. I've got my cleaning supplies in here, pretty generic. I just use the same stuff I use on my daily driver. It's fairly cheap and nothing special. Some guys swear by certain products, but that's the one I use on the Beamer, so that's the one I use on the race car. I try to use the same sponge and everything. Unloading, cleaning the car, maybe about an hour or so on Sunday afternoon. You really gotta go through and do the cleaning, because when you're working on it, you can't have clumps of dirt and everything flying everywhere. If you're taking off body panels, you're gonna just get dirt on everything. The car is completely just covered by the time you get home from a night of racing, so it's important to do that. Doesn't have to be perfect. You don't need to get to the absolute bottom of everything, and usually the engine still has some dirt down on the bottom, stuff that I don't get too particular with unless I'm concerned about oil leaks or anything like that I want to look over and make sure it's absolutely clean. So on a weekly basis, I do need to check the oil for the car. There's a plug down here, as you can see, at the top of the oil pan. When I pull that, and if the oil is ready to come rushing out, that means I have enough oil on there. I think that's around the 6 or 7 quart mark there, based on what I've seen so far. When I do fill it up, though, I do fill it up with a full 8 quarts per engine builder recommendations. So I make sure I'm good on oil, even if I don't see any on the engine. It's just good to check and make sure, because sometimes I have been a little low. I'm still getting new to things, and I don't ever want that to be an issue. Another new thing that's on the car is our overflow can here. What this does is it connects to the top over here. When I first got the car, I didn't have this on it, and I was in a situation where I was blowing oil up through the vents over here, and it just kept spraying back on the car and everything, and didn't quite understand what was going on there until we found out that blow-by is a common occurrence in these engines, and you can get one of these solution catch cans here that will catch the blow-by, catch it in a can over here, and then you could just drain it out every week. So that's another maintenance item to do every week. 4 to 5 weeks, so you usually keep it around 4 weeks. I actually do a full oil change, change the filter that's down in here as well. When I'm outside cleaning the car, one of the things I like to do is blow out the radiator. So as you can see in here now, the radiator is pretty clean. But I will take the actual hose while I'm cleaning the car, if there's a lot of dirt in there, and actually shoot it from the back to the front, blow out as much as you can there. And I will also, when I get the car in the garage, not the same day, not on that Sunday, but later on in the week, I will come in, I will hook up the air hose and blow from the back to the front to get out a lot of the fine dirt as well. If it's been a little bit, I'll actually get under the car and get some of the spots, because it's always more buildup on the bottom than on the top. everybody has a different number of weeks that they'll go until they want to pull the radiator, change the water in it, give it a good bath. I do it actually in a bathtub in my house. Some people will do it in a kiddie pool in the backyard. But just really give it a good washing, get all that stuff that doesn't come out easily with this hose or the air gun. It's really important, especially down here in Texas when the temperatures at night will sometimes be 90, 95 or plus sometimes degrees. The car can get up to 200, 210, sometimes even threatening 220. You want to keep those temperatures down, engine operating at its best, and not get into a situation where you're pushing the temperatures of the car and tempting yourself to have to pull off or DNF from a race because the temperatures are too high. So definitely dirt track build up. You know, you can determine how many nights you want to go, but do recommend every so many races having to do that as well as part of the maintenance. So as well as the radiator, it's important to do the air filter up here. Pull this off every so often, give it a good cleaning, blow it out. They have special kits for cleaning them. You can do it just like I do with the hose outside for spraying water through it, the air hose inside, spraying air through it, blow it from inside to outside. Just keep it clean, make sure you have good airflow coming into the engine. Now if you have a nice clean weekend at the track, this is one step you won't need to worry about, but as we all know, circle track, short track racing, you're going to be bumping and banging a little bit, as you can see by my door panel here. So one of the things that will have to happen, depending on how the weekend goes, taking off certain body panels, pretty easy bolt on, bolt off, straightening them out. I lay out mats on the other side of the garage there, and I do it on the floor with hammers. Some people might be more particular, want them more perfect. We're a little past the mid-season point now, so I am using these panels, which are a little sub-perfect at this point. I did build a couple extra panels in the off season, so if I have a night that's really bad, as I did this last weekend, I will actually replace a panel. So I can show you the nose here. This is a nose that I actually finished last season with. It only had a couple nights on it when I took it off, and I made 3 more noses over the winter. Because what often happens is you get into a front contact here, bends one of these side panels, bend something over here, you bend the bumper, there's under brackets under here that hold things together. And working a full-time job and having so many other things to do, I just didn't want to be in a situation where I'm trying to build a whole new nose midweek while I got a lot of other responsibilities. So I built a couple, and this week it actually paid off, because last week, if you saw the video, took a pretty nasty hit to the front of the car and actually kept this pieces from it, but I was under the car in front of me, so much so that I still have paint a couple feet up into the nose of my car, as you can see there. So I replaced the whole nose. So besides the outer parts of the nose here and the front bumper, I was able to salvage the front bumper that was on here before. There's actually another piece under the nose that connects here. And there's another connection over there. It's a bar that comes out and goes across, and it really supports the nose from moving and flexing, and it absorbs impact if something does happen to the front, which did happen this last weekend. Unfortunately, I don't have a welder yet, so I tried JB welding it, which I did once last year as well. Well, my dad did it once last year, and it worked for him, but when I did it myself, got it all set, it was in perfect position, I thought I was good to go. Started putting the new nose on, tightened it all down, and then was checking over my final product, my final work here, and saw that the bar was dragging underneath the front again. So my JB weld didn't hold, so much so that because this is really tight fit, after I pushed everything into place, the actual JB weld broke. So I'm going this weekend without that front bar, and I'm going to have to go get it actually welded next week by somebody who owns a welder. That's another to-do for the garage, is get a welder and learn how to weld myself, because I'm going to need it. So I try to save as much as I can from any accidents or damage. This is the nose from last week. I started taking it apart, and you can see there's pretty significant damage. I might not be able to salvage everything from here. And if anybody saw this piece when I got it back from the track officially last week, this was folded in half like 3 different ways and bent in every which way. I got it straightened out. I can do a better job with this. Debating if I'm gonna keep it or not. It is really beat up, but I think aerodynamically it'll be fine. Size-wise, everything should still match up, and I can just get a little bit more flatness going to it. So I think I should be able to save most of it. So you're gonna show something that you helped me with this week, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What did you help me with this week?
I helped you with the battery.
And what did we do with the battery?
We straightened it up.
Straightened it up? Mm-hmm. Why? What happened to it?
Because whenever we smacked into somebody, it like almost fell out, and that would have been really, really bad. So
the battery mount actually broke.
Yeah.
And was hanging on the back of the car. I think I can insert picture here. Into this video of it hanging on the back of the car, and we actually finished the race with the battery hanging. Somehow it stayed on. So this week, what did we have to do? Show us what we did.
We had to straighten it up. So the battery's all the way over here.
Okay.
And whenever we had it, it was dangling down there. We had to put that bolt in, and there's another bolt on the other side as well.
Yeah, so it was the front side that broke, and because there's a couple adjustable mounting holes, we were able to use different mounting holes to make the battery still go on and sit the way it needs to sit back here. Because of what happened to it and just general maintenance, I also have the battery on a charger right now. Okay, let's go.
So yeah.
Thank you for your help, Jack.
No problem.
So one of the things we have to do every week is just a general look over of the car, get underneath it, check nuts, bolts, shocks, everything, because the dirt track is really, really bumpy, and we've learned that things just come loose. And you especially want to check things in damaged areas. So when I got rear-ended this last week, this whole quarter, I took it off and had to beat it down. It's not perfect, but it's definitely usable for this week. And you definitely want to check around damaged areas, because after I was going through things, well, it didn't take very long to find this one, but this clip under here was actually bent like down and backwards over there. He came in behind my car so far, he drove underneath there, completely annihilated the back bumper, had to put on a new back bumper, painted that this week. Thankfully I had one sitting around the house. Came under so far, the nose of his car actually came down, bent this clip completely down and backwards. So at least thankfully didn't bend it off, and I didn't have to weld a new one on there, but I did have to bend it back to get this quarter on there. So you got to be careful and go through things. So one of the things I found the other week as part of general maintenance, it's actually coming in here to pour in the rest of the fuel I had so I could bring the containers to go get filled up on fuel. Open up the door, and I saw this elbow here actually had a lot of wear in it, and it's from this little guy here. So through this body being, at least this deck being 2.5-ish years old and being bent and hit in different directions and contorted, it's actually a little lower now. So what I did to resolve it for now is I wrapped it in this rubber, actually put another tie here. So this is not only rubbing on the rubber to prevent any further damage to the elbow, it's rubbing on this tie here to prevent any further damage to the elbow. Tried to get under here and pry it up a little bit. That's my dad's recommendation, because you can see how much flex and movement it has. But I didn't have a whole lot of success with that because it just kind of bends back in place. So this should last for now. I might need to maybe just cut this little nipple off here and make it so it doesn't rub on there. But this is my interim solution until the off season. We might actually be replacing the whole deck depending on how bad it is by the end of the season. So little things you catch. You got to catch all those little things, because if that got worse, it could have caused a fuel leak in the back of the car, and who knows what kind of catastrophes could have come from that. Right, Jack?
Yep.
Another point of maintenance, not necessarily every week, but every couple of weeks, is to grease all the joints of the car. So you will see many places, you will have these nodes here. Put the grease gun on, shoot some fresh grease in there, make sure everything's greased up, moving and flowing smoothly the way it needs to. So as a budget conscious team, we try to make the most out of what we have, try to make the most out of our tires, and try to run these tires as many nights as we can. The general way I've been doing it, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, the rear tires get the most abuse. So what I do is I start new tires on the back of the car. After X amount of nights and X amount of wear, I take them and they become front tires. Last week I measured the tread depth on the tires. I have a little tool, I don't have it in here right now, that I'll measure the tread depth. And the right front was actually the worst one on the car. Not too surprised because it had at least 10 nights on it. Maybe towards the 15 nights after it was already a right rear, then it became a right front. So this week I took what was my spare right front, which had more depth on it, and made it my new right front. So my ex right front is now my spare right front. And I will run it that way until this one no longer is great, or I need to replace my right rear and my spare right rear, and then I will do a whole probably 2-3 days of mounting, remounting, and reorganizing the tires on the car and the tires in the trailer. I do have a bunch of spares. I don't necessarily know how much I should push it with some of these tires, how bad I want to wear them down. Everybody has to make their own decisions. Thankfully at our track, it is a soft track and we can get many nights out of them as opposed to some places. Right, Jack?
Yep.
So we talked about cleaning the car every week and how important that is before you start working on it. But after a couple nights of racing in Texas, when it's 90-something degrees and you're sweating as soon as you put your suit on, you start to realize that the suit, the helmet, it's a little funky. Right, Jack?
Very stinky.
Very stinky. So it's important to try to keep those things in order as well. We'll take those pads out of the helmet and wash them every now and then because it can get pretty funky. Right, Jack?
Yep. Why are you doing it?
Because it's fun.